This is Joe Larsen from the 505 Racing Show, live every Monday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Watch as I dive into everything from NASCAR and motor racing, only on InRavio.com.
InRavio.com.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larsen. You're watching the 505 Racing Show. Welcome. Hope everybody had a good week. We had some nice weather up here in the Northeast, for the most part. A little bit of rain, but you have to have rain. And it didn't affect any of the racing, so that's even better. It's all good. What are we going to talk about tonight? Well, of course, we're going to talk about Indy. We're going to talk about Eldora. We're going to talk about Seekonk. We're going to talk about the Baldwin Evans Jazombek Memorial that was held this past weekend on Long Island. And, of course, we're going to have I guess what's become known as the Joe Rant. So, anyway. So, with that being said, the Baldwin Evans Jazombek Memorial. 17 cars showed up, to my count anyway. There were a couple of SK cars there. And I guess SK is really synonymous to Stafford Motor Speedway, so I don't know what they would call them on Long Island, because they call them some other kind of modifieds at Thompson and some other kind of modifieds upstate New York, but they're SK cars. A little bit less motor, same chassis, everything else the same. But, so they had the race. I did expect more cars. I know last year when they had this race, the car count was a little light, but I really did expect more cars. There wasn't a lot going on tour-type modified-wise across the Northeast. However, Seekonk had that open show, $10,000 to win, which was won by Tommy Barrett Jr., person who's run the Whelen Modified Tour, the MRS series, as well as some other tour-type races across the Northeast. Young kid going for Rookie of the Year contender on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. And it was a race that I had planned on going to as a spectator up at Seekonk, but I had a family situation. I had a very close personal friend who we considered each other family pass away, 55 years old of cancer. So I had to go and pay my respects and deal with that. So, and that's why, for those who were wondering, Joe was supposed to race at the Baldwin race. Oh, he's blowing smoke again. No, folks. I got back probably at 2 or 3 in the morning from the services on Friday evening, Friday afternoon, and just wasn't in the mood to race. Just wasn't. I wasn't even going to go to the racetrack. That's the kind of mood I was in, and too much going through the head, and a lot of emotions. And I was convinced to go. It would take my mind off of things, and it did. It did for the moment. And then we dealt with Sunday, and now it's Monday, and you get all pumped up to do the 505 Racing Show. So, with plans the next 2 weekends that some personal, some business, we're probably not going to see the 83 tour type mod, tour type, it is a tour mod, at Riverhead, Long Island, until probably after Stafford, which will probably be the day after Stafford. That's the tentative plan. That was not the original plan, so we're going to work on that plan moving forward. And the problem is, and for those who don't know, my shop's in Riverton, Connecticut. And if you don't know where Riverton, Connecticut is, it's northwest of Lime Rock. Now, if you've never been to Lime Rock, the best way I could explain this is if you looked at Connecticut, you looked at a map of Connecticut. If you go, I believe it's 1 or 2 exits north, you're in Massachusetts. And if you go 1 or 2 exits west, you're in upstate New York. So that's how far up this is. So it's no easy test. It's not just a matter, yeah, let's go to Long Island and run, because it's a matter of getting the car here. And so I don't know. The plan changed, and I want to thank my crew, my car owner, my sponsors for being so understanding with that. Because as I've been talking about since I started this show, you can't go racing without sponsors. And my sponsors understood, and if they didn't, the new me says sometimes you got to do family things on race day, and I did consider this gentleman family. For those who don't know, it was John Trotter Jr., a very good friend of mine. He is the brother of a person I was in a relationship for quite some time, and I was close to him, close to his children, close to his wife. They lived in Rhode Island, 55 years old, cancer. And it makes you reevaluate things when you get hit with something like that. It makes you, sit back and say, hey, you know what? Let's enjoy today. 'Cause tomorrow might not be here. And as many of us, especially in this racing world, we've all experienced that. We've experienced loss. And sometimes it's tragic. Sometimes it's health. Sometimes you just shake hands and agree to disagree, and you go your separate ways. But loss nonetheless hurts, and I had to spend some time with the folks up in Rhode Island and pay my respects. So to an individual who, for those who don't know, many times on my way up to Thompson or Stafford, make a stop there, maybe stay there for the weekend instead of staying at a hotel. And he was a big Budweiser fan. So when Thompson had the Budweiser 150, I got him garage passes, and I got him hospitality suite passes in the Budweiser tent. And I actually got a Dale Earnhardt, when I was in New Hampshire, when Dale Earnhardt was sponsored by Budweiser, Dale Earnhardt Jr., I should say, I approached Dale and I said, listen, and I told him it was my brother-in-law. I said, my brother-in-law is a big Dale Earnhardt Jr. fan and a big Budweiser fan. Do you have a Budweiser flag? So he gave me a Budweiser flag, one of those big 3x6 flag, big giant flag. So when I gave it to Johnny, he's down on the island one weekend, I gave him the flag. And he was like, oh, thanks. And he put it in his suitcase. I was like, okay, I expected a little bit more, oh, thanks. So that's what happens when you have expectations. The next time I went to his house, not only did he have the flag displayed, because he had a basement, it's like a museum of model cars, die-cast cars, collectibles, movie posters, race car stuff, especially if it said Budweiser. But he had a whole Budweiser section. I mean, I gave him a piston. I had a piston from the Budweiser NHRA car, and I can't for the life of me remember who drove it. But the motor blew up, and I won it in a raffle. And I gave him that. Well, I go to his house, and I'm down, because that's where I slept. I slept down in the basement, in this finished basement. And there was the flag. It was all folded up like the American flag in one of those triangular holders. That's how much that flag meant to him. And so anyway, prayers to Johnny and his family. He's going to be missed. So when I go to Stafford and Thompson, I guess I got to back to staying at hotels. Anyway, Seekonk, I mentioned Seekonk. It was $10,000 to win. Tommy Barrett Jr. took home the cash. It was a bundle of cash. And from what I understand, there were 40, thank you, my racers, Kenny Bernstein. And he signed the piston too, by the way. If I'm not mistaken, I think 43 cars attempted to race that race at Seekonk. It was an open modified race. And in talking to Tommy Rogers Jr., who went up to run the event, he said it was, when you say an open race, there was no rules. There were no rules. Motors, rears, tires. Usually when you have an open race like that somewhere, usually it's, you go with your track rules or your series rules. He said they did 42. Oh, okay, well, I was off by one. And I believe, let's see, how many do they start up there? 24? So they sent 18 home, if I'm not mistaken. Well, anyway, in talking to Tommy Rogers Jr. about it, he said that they didn't even check the cars. Now, this is a no way, no how knock at Seekonk Speedway. Please, don't look at it that way. But, man, maybe, I'm just thinking maybe somebody needed to go around and at least look at seatbelts. I mean, come on. But anyway, it wasn't a NASCAR event. It was an open comp race. It was all, So I guess there's different rules, and there's guys soaking tires and juicing tires and all kinds of rear end stuff, and I guess next year you go better prepared. 17 went home. 17 cars went home. Look at that. It was they qualified through heat races. Then they had a B main, and the winner of the B main was moved on to the feature. So, it's kind of funny when I look at car counts. And I'm talking about like the MRS and the Whelen Modified Tour. When I look at those car counts, and here's like the MRS, the Valenti Modified Racing Series, gets a lot more cars than Whelen Modified Tour. 42 cars show up at an open comp show. The NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour is averaging about 25, 26 maybe. Why is that? The Whelen Modified Tour has a much bigger, I mean, you can't compare to a $10,000 to win race, but when you look at, for the most part, the payoffs in all these other modified series of modified events are so much less. I believe it's like $1,500 to win in the MRS, and there's a lot of other open shows. It's anywhere between $1,500 and $2,500. Whereas the modified tour take away what they used to call the flash races, like the Monadnocks and the Riverheads. They're looking at $5,500 to win. There were 30 tour cars at Riverhead, and there were 33, I believe, at New Hampshire. And a lot of the races were only getting 23 and 24. You have guys and gals qualifying for events on the Whelen Modified Tour that would have went home just a couple of years ago. When I say go home, they would have been non-qualifiers. But anyway, why is this happening? Why are teams willing to take that gamble and go up knowing a gazillion cars are going to go attempt to make this $10,000 to win race when you know that it's going to be a competitive field? Because none of the slouches showed up. It was all top runners. They all showed up to race this. And then you'll go run the MRS and you go and you run for considerably less money. And there's a 4-tire rule, and you don't need the uniforms, and you don't need, the safety equipment for your crews. But to me, that's a one-time cost. It's not that, and people make, well, they don't need uniforms, they don't need these fire shoes, there's no pitting and no fueling, so you don't need the mask and the apron and the goggles and all that kind of good stuff. It's a one-time cost. So after you've paid it once, that cost is out of the equation. So let's throw that out. Let's eliminate that. When the people who run that series for $1,400, $1,500 to win, that used to be tour type or tour competitors, well, we got to get crew. Well, first of all, you probably already have it. A lot of your crew guys are former drivers and probably have a fire suit that they can throw on. The rule says you have to have a helmet. It doesn't say what kind of helmet. You can have a hockey helmet. You can have a bicycle helmet. You can have a motorcycle helmet. as long as you have a helmet. Because the rule says helmet. It doesn't specify for pit road what you have to have. So, I mean, yeah, you can go out and get an $800 helmet for pit road, but you can go to a Kmart or Walmart and get a $20 helmet. For years and years and years, since 1948, people worked on pit road with T-shirts and jeans. Now, I know that we've gone and gotten better, but what I'm trying to say is that excuse doesn't wash with me anymore. It did in the beginning. I was like, yeah, wow, that's a big expense. But it's a one-time event. It's a one-time expense. It's not every week. You have it. Boom. You don't have to go get the best of the best of the best. Come on, I could put you in a suit for a couple $100. And if you use it for 2 years and do 20 events, that suit costs you $10 a race. So it's not a big one. So. And myracenews.com is going to the archives. 47 cars filed entries and 42 showed up. So, and that happens. You know, when you send in your entry blank, who knows what happens the week before? You wreck, you crash, you have a death in your family, you don't make it, whatever. But still, that's a heck of a lot of cars. A heck of a lot of cars. And I just don't understand why teams would race for a third of the purse in these other series and when they could go run. I don't know. Maybe somebody could explain that to me. You know, and I used to look at, hey, well, it's more costly and, you know, you can't compete with the teams that buy all these tires. But you know what? You're only allowed, like when they ran Riverhead, Milan, it's a no-tire chain. So buy 100 tires. Who cares? You still can only use 4. Got to start the race with your qualified in. You can only change a tire if you got a flat or a bent wheel. So, what's the deal? Is it that people are that fed up? I don't know. And you're right that, you know, my race knows. Some people would race for, you didn't even have to put the 500 up. It's the bragging rights. Chris Young, a former modified champion, former figure 8 champion here on Long Island at 2 racetracks. He said to me one day, he goes, because you know when I like to win the most? I said, what, Chris? He said, I like to win the last race of the year. I said, really? He goes, that's right. He goes, if you win opening night or you win any other night during the season, you only have bragging rights for a week. But if you win the last race of the year, you have bragging rights all winter long. And I never thought about it that way, you know, because I never won a race. I never had bragging rights. I never won a race as a driver, many as a car owner, many as a crew member and a crew chief even with the late model. You look back on stuff like that and you're like, wow. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But I don't understand. I don't understand the mentality of not only competitors and car owners, but track operators as well. And why some track operators put up these big crazy purses and other tracks purses are less than what they ran 20 years ago. You know, like in here on Long Island, I believe that race there was no published purse, but I believe the weekly purse, because it was a weekly race, it's like $1,400 to win. You throw some sponsor stuff, there's maybe another couple hundred. But what happened was a local guy again, the Mod Maniac, went out and solicited and got sponsorship and put money into the purse. And I don't know what the winner's share was, but I know it was over $2,000. And I'm not sure what last place paid, but you know, and this isn't a knock against my local race. This is all racetracks. Why do the local people have to raise the money to put a decent purse on? That bothers me. That bothers me. And we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to tell you why. We're going to take a break.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com. Paul Brown and the Killing Devils. Alternative progressive rock like you've never heard before. Over 1 million views on YouTube. New York City Village Voice says Paul is a gifted singer, songwriter, and musician with one of the best progressive rock bands on the planet. LA Underground Music Exchange calls him the only modern American band to cover every genre well. Pick up the albums Black Widow Tears, Red Spider, and The Wizard's Dawn, now on iTunes. And get to facebook.com/Killing Devils to keep up with the latest info.
Transmission of lice occurs from being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Like catching a cold or the flu.
You have guaranteed peace of mind in every bottle of Got Lice because all of our products are completely natural
And organic.
but strong enough to cover all your lice removal needs while being safe and effective. Our professional technicians are specially trained with our exclusive proven technique to successfully comb out head lice. We come right to your home at your convenience.
Whenever you want us.
We bring everything needed to perform a successful and complete comb out while eliminating your head lice. And we leave you with our exclusive complimentary products to use for the next 10 days following our treatment.
For free.
Our technicians also check all family members who have been exposed to lice. Please visit us on our website today at gotlice.co or feel free to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 646-257-0121.
Hey, this is Chris and Les Jake, and if InRavio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
InRavio.com.
Hey, we're back. So, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So, looking back, I mean, I don't understand why people will race for less money. I remember Ed Cox and I, back, I believe it was like in 2003 or 2004, we called some key car owners into a meeting at Thompson, and a couple of crew chiefs and some key drivers, some of the veterans. And Ed was concerned about the True Value modified series. It was taking a lot of our cars. And Ed started off and he said, you go race that race, 13, 14, 1500 to win, you wreck your car, and you make it out to our race. And he kind of started off with that. And then he got some pushback from some of the owners. And it got a little heated at one point. And then Ed Cox, who is a true Southern gentleman, who got me a lot of stuff in NASCAR, and I got to thank him for that. He said, guys, what you're doing is you're showing the track owners that you're willing to race for 1,500 to win. Our purses are going to go down. How do I negotiate with that? When I show up with, back then we were getting 35, 40 cars. He goes, here we are, I show up with 40 cars, and that series is getting 50, and they're running for a third, sometimes 25% less. He goes, we need to do that. We need to support our series and not that other one. And then one of the last years that Chad Little was the series director for the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, we're at the World Series at Thompson, and we had about 30 cars, I guess, when I say we, the Wheel and Tour. And back over by the mountain was the MRS, and Chad said, do me a favor, go back there and tell me how many cars are back there. So I went back and counted. It was like 40-something cars. But what I did is I not only just counted cars, I counted who amongst that group had run with us on the tour, in the last 2 years. More than half. So I went back, I said, Chad, there's like 40. He goes, oh man, that's not the bad. The worst news is this. He goes, what? I said, most of those guys used to run with us. We need to find out why. And and there were a bunch of different reasons why, and I don't know. I don't know if it's a real reason. Sometimes people just need an excuse. Is it more costly to run the modified tour? Yeah, week to week, I guess it is. But nobody tells you have to go out and get 10 tires. The race calls for 4. Nobody's twisting your arm saying, you need to go get 10 tires. Nobody's making you. the other tours, like the MRS, 4 tires. So you could get by with 4 tires. Are you going to win? I don't know. I think in our series in the Modified Tour, on any given night of the, I'll say 25 regulars, 15 could win on any given night or afternoon. 15. Because you have your mid-pack guys and gals, and you have your couple of guys, they're always going to be in the back for whatever reason. And always have been, but you know what? They're out there. You know, so I guess when I finally show up, one of the back of the pack guys will move up to mid-pack because you know where I'm going to be, floundering in the back somewhere. Nah, I'm only kidding. Who knows? Who knows what'll happen? Hey, I might be a horror show from lap 1. I might black flag myself. Tell myself it's a done deal. And Silverback, you need to stop laughing. But anyway, that's just what I just don't understand the reasoning behind some of the stuff that goes on in this game that we call racing. I just don't understand it. Anyway, so what do we got with the Modified Tour? The Whelen Modified Tour will be in Stafford next, I guess not this Friday night, the Friday night after. And the Southern Modified Tour will be in Bowman Gray this weekend. In fact, the 2-car owned by Joe Bertuccio, Gershaw Recycling, was at Riverhead. It was just a shakedown, getting it ready for Bowman Gray. They did start the Evans, Jazambek Memorial, Evans, Baldwin, Evans, Jazambek, I guess that's how it went, race, and did some laps, you know, shaking it down. And that's all good. And it was a good race. It was a pretty darn good race, if you ask me. 77 laps on the tires that are designed to go 35. So they didn't bring in special tires for the extra distance. And it was something I said back in 2000. I said, you know, we should run some 75 lappers and some 100 lappers. And all the drivers flipped out on me like I was an idiot, saying, the tires can't go that long. I said, then manage your tires. Manage your tires. And they can, and they did. And Ryan Preece ran most of that race on the outside groove, passing people like there was no tomorrow, because he took the challenge. The challenge was TBR, Tom Bolden Racing, put up $2,000 to, the way it was explained to me, a redraw person on a redraw. You take time in the top 6, 8, whatever, redraw. If one of those people elected to go to the rear start last and win the race, he put up $2,000. Well, then 3-4 days later, there was a big message. No, due to the officials don't want to do this, and they snuffed it out. It ain't happening. So the last I heard before I went to the racetrack was they weren't going to do it. Then all of a sudden, Ryan Preece draws whatever spot he draws in the redraw, and says on the PA, I'm electing the start in the back to go for the challenge, the $2,000. So it was on again, off again, on again. I don't know, you know, whatever. If the modified mod maniac could collect all this money and pay these guys in an envelope, why can't Tom Bolden? And that's what I said when I first saw that the officials said they're not going to do this. You know, why didn't just Tom mail them a check? You don't have to go through the racetrack. Safer does it all the time, the Suffolk Association, Figure 8 Racing, when they have special, you know, races. You know, they've given out lap money and other monies based on it. Because I remember my daughter got it when she got an extra like $50 or $100 from Safer for where she finished in that race. You know, it was on, but it wasn't on officially through the racetrack, is how it was explained to me. It was just, they said, oh, the heck with it, we're just going to do it. We're just going to make it happen. So I think that's how it did. That's how it went. So Ryan Preece, I'll tell you, I thought he was going to make it happen. This guy started in the back, and I'm telling you, he was passing cars at will. He ended up finishing, what did he finish? 1, 2, 3. He ended up finishing third. And I'll tell you what, I think under the long green flags laps of racing, he was doing a super job getting through. And then you go to, you know, a single fire restart. It's just tough to pass. You know, you had 2 very fast cars in front of him, Ronnie Silk and and Tom Rogers Jr., and they're tough to get by, especially on a restart. I think if went green a little bit longer, I think he could have muscled by them. But he passed all these cars without bumping and grinding and pushing and shoving. And yeah, I did see that TV. I know that Tom Bolden said he would mail the person a check, and I just don't understand the old thing with the way it was put on the social media. The NASCAR Weekly All-American Series officials nixed it, and on that website or on that social media page, I asked, well, maybe one of these officials would get on and say why. Man, it was only good for racing, good for the fans. Give them something to look at, give them something to root on, and go from there. But it just adds to the negativity that I'm not supposed to talk about that goes on at a local racetrack. But anyway, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the news in NASCAR and some of the things that are going on when we come back.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Hey, this is Chris and Les Jake, and if InRavio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Paul Brown and the Killing Devils. Alternative progressive rock like you've never heard before. Over 1 million views on YouTube. New York City Village Voice says Paul is a gifted singer, songwriter, and musician with one of the best progressive rock bands on the planet. LA Underground Music Exchange calls him the only modern American band to cover every genre well. Pick up the albums Black Widow Tears, Red Spider, and The Wizard's Dawn, now on iTunes. And get to facebook.com/Killing Devils to keep up with the latest info. For over 60 years, Hansen Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hansen Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansenCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hansen Carpet has got you covered.
Hey, we're back. Let's see, we're talking about Dave Sapienza, driver of the 36 car, was injured in that race. Looks like broke his wrist, hand, some depends on who you talk to. I'll tell you what, I watch sometimes how guys drive, how they steer their race cars, how they hold the steering wheel and stuff. And some competitors, they wrap their hands around the wheel. Some even put it on the bar, and they kind of, it's inside the wheel. So, you get hit, and it's going to hit you. And I know a couple of guys that injured and broke wrist, got caught in the steering wheel, Justin Bonsier being one. I think he did it twice. But years and years and years, I'm talking back like 40 years ago, Luigi Terrapicchio was ready. He said ISO Speedway in the figure 8 division, one of the top runners at the time. And he hit the wall, and the way he was holding his steering wheel, he hit with such force that his thumb ended up like way down here. And that like scared the heck out of me. Like, holy cow, he was in a cast for like a long time. And I always said, I thought about this, because I analyze just about everything when it comes to racing. I'm like, how can I hold the wheel so that doesn't happen to me? And I came up with a way, and it's a thumbs up. And that when I had my crash, my steer wheel, the right, and I guess you can tell where your strength is, the right part of the steering wheel bent all the way in. I mean, almost, it was a dish-type steering wheel. It came out like this. Well, where I held it with my right hand was pushed all the way in, and where I had it with my left hand, you could actually, it was like I almost did one of these. So if I had held the steering wheel with my thumbs inside, we would have been talking about messed up hands for quite some time, and I wasn't going to do that. So I learned from somebody else's mistake. But they're talking about some of the stuff that happened, and there was a crash early in the race. I believe it was lap 14. And where you going? It's a restart on lap 14. You have 63 laps to go on this quarter-mile bull ring, and the 6 car was in the inside, the 98 car was on the outside, and they come off of 4, and next thing you know, pop, the 98 car's in the fence. And I saw it, I was watching, because, ever since Justin Bonsier got gigged for jumping the restart, I kind of, when I go here, I watch now, Let's see, are they going to let this guy get away with it? Or this guy, is he going? And they won at the right time, and I watched, and I said, the 98's going to beat the 6 to the corner. Next thing I know, and maybe I'm mistaken, but the way I saw it is I saw the wheels of the 6 car do that. Just do that, just enough. And at 80, 90 miles an hour, that is a lot. It sends the car, shoots the car this way and back real quick, whereas anybody who's here is going in the fence. Dave Brigatti was uninjured, quite sore on Sunday, but uninjured, but he had a trashed race car. Now, I've known Dave 20 years, maybe longer, and I've never seen him angry. I've never seen him display any unprofessionalism, any signs of emotion. He got out of his race car when the track crew got to him. He got out, took off his helmet, and started walking. I figured, you know what, I don't know what I would do if my race car got trashed. I know what I would do, but don't know what I would do. And he started walking down the racetrack, and I saw the 6 car come off the turn 4 under caution. And next thing I know, I thought Dave was going to throw his helmet. And he didn't. He composed himself, and he ended up taking off his fire suit, and going home. I don't think there was any need for that. I don't think there was any need for that, for what happened. Not Dave's action, but the actions of the 6. And somebody in the chat room says that he does that all the time. I don't know if he does it all the time, but I have seen that on occasion. And it's one of those moves that I've used in my lifetime. Where you got to just nudge somebody out of your way just a little bit, so they got to burp the gas, and so you could go under them. It never worked for me. I usually ended up taking myself out. But, when I see enough stuff happens by accident on a racetrack. So when I see stuff happen on what appears to be on purpose, and I don't want people calling up Ron Sick and saying, hey, Joe said you wrecked on purpose. I'm not saying that. I'm saying what it appeared to be. Because people do that to me, because God forbid they come to me and tell me, why did you say that? They have to use the phone and the computer. Right, that's a whole nother story. That'll be part of the Joe rant later. But enough stuff happens by accident, especially on a short track like that, where you have cars that are like 85 inches wide, so that's 170 inches. That's like, what is it, that's 15 feet wide, because you got to leave a little space in between so you're not rubbing. 15 feet wide on an 18-foot wide straightaway. Stuff's going to happen, but don't make it happen, because now what happens is you take out that one guy, the rest of the field's like on the gas. Where are you going to go? You're not going to stop. At 60 miles an hour, you're going 100 feet a second. A lot of people don't know that. So by the time you see it and react to it, man, you just went 100 feet. You're in it. More carnage, more wrecked race cars, more potential hurt. Kevin basically saying that Dave's done, he's not coming back to Riverhead. And I'll tell you what, and in the heat of the moment, a lot of people say that. I'm done, I'm not coming. It wasn't Riverhead's fault that happened. And I consider Dave Brigatti a friend of mine, so I could see him saying that in the heat of the moment, but Dave Brigatti went back at Riverhead. I can remember one night they took a win away from me due to I didn't have the win yet. There was still 6 laps to go, but they took a potential win away from me. How's that? A shot at a win based on a bad call. A bad call. And when I pulled off the racetrack, I was so angry, and I did all kinds of stuff and said a bunch of stuff to the officials. But when I got to my pit area, I ripped the right front fender off, and I started beating my car with it. I'm not coming back. I'm done. That's it. The following Saturday, I was like one of the first guys loaded up, ready to go. I don't know. They all come back. You get caught up in the moment. You definitely get caught up in the moment. And it happens. We've all been there. Anybody who's ever strapped into a race car, anybody who's ever wrote checks for their race car, you get it in the heat of the moment. You're not coming back. You were shafted by a competitor. You feel you were shafted by an official. And I'm going to say it again, being an official, you can't fix everything as an official. You can't go back and change things. You can't go back and say, hey, you know what, you got shafted on that, so let's go red, but we're going to let you fix your car because it's a shame what that guy did to you, and then we'll continue. That doesn't happen in racing. It just doesn't happen. Like I said, enough stuff happens by accident. Now, the other thing that upset me about this race that I was watching, a certain competitor was, I guess, brought into I'll call it the white box, I guess you can call it the timeout box, because they felt the competitor was leaking. He was running in the top 5, and thank you, Homer, consistency is the key. He was running in the top 5, I believe, at the time, and next, they say he's leaking, so they bring him to this white box, and 3 officials hop down the embankment, go check, and I see 1 point to the pits. It means, all right, we see a leak, go fix it. All I get, just like, and I was the same way. I'm leaking, you go into the pits, and your crew looks, and you don't see anything leaking. So now you're more angry, you go back out. And this competitor, and this guy may be a rookie, but he's raced in go-karts most of his life. He's raced other things. No matter what the reason is, you don't get your spot back. We wasted 15 minutes with this guy. He demanded, come look, I'm not leaking now. Come, you know what? This is what I would have done. And finally, one of the officials said over radio, tell him to get in line where we tell you to go in the pit area. You know what? You don't want to go where we tell you. You want to make a show out of it. And I did this. I'm trying to remember when in 2000 or 2001 to former national champion Wayne Anderson, and he didn't want to get off the racetrack. Well, we're going to tow. We hooked up the tow truck to his race car. You know, we got a truck behind him, the tow truck in front of him, and he had nowhere to go. Now your choice is go in the pit area. We're going to tow you to Applebee's across the street, you know, and that's just how it is, you know. And I don't know, you know, somebody else said that he wasn't leaking ever, but we weren't there. We weren't in the white box. And considering who this competitor is, if there's an official that was there that pointed to go to the pits because we think you're leaking, which I saw somebody point and say go, considering who this guy is, if he wasn't leaking, that would have never happened. It would have been just a consultation in the white box, you get your spot back. Now, unless they were pointing at something else and he elected to go in a pit area on his own, still, you go into the pit, you leave the racetrack, you come back, you're in the tail. End of story. I mean, what the heck? Don't they know the rules here? Don't they know the rules? And that leads me to another thing, rules. See, everything's a segue. Rules. And you don't need to put you know, and somebody else said that to me, WJ, that, you know, if it was leaking, how come there's no speedy dry? Well, what are you going to do? You're going to put down 50 pounds of speedy dry for a drip? I've seen Walter Bonds, like the head tech guy, IVs dripped faster than I had a drip on my race car one time with Brian Cicella driving, and they put me in. That leak, that little drip, never even made it to the racetrack when the car was at motion, but when they put it into the box, because somebody's crew guy said, and we're in a division, there's no radios. Crew chief, one of those guys goes up to the ramp, says the 84, I think, no, the 34 is leaking. My driver told me the 34 is leaking. Now, first of all, as an official, I'm going to say, well, how can your driver communicate with you because there's no radios? But no, they didn't even think of that. My car gets black flagged into the middle, we're leaking. We sat there for the day, it was a 30-lapper. We got black flagged on lap 7. We sat there for 23 laps. When the race was over, we looked underneath, there wasn't a mark, there wasn't a drip. But, however, but rules, the question is, what does the official send him to the pits to inspect with a drop light or something else? That's what the white box is. If they check it in the white box and you're not leaking, you're back in your spot. If once you leave the racetrack, you're in the back of the pack. It's in the rule book. It's in the rule book. This is what happens when you have like key officials who either didn't read the rule book or don't pay attention and they've been officials for years and years and years. They're just there to get in for the race for free and get, you know, free pizza and then maybe a barbecue and a beer after. That they don't know the rule. I had to get certified every year before I was handed my uniform on the tour. I had to take a test and I had to score 98 on it or 97. If I didn't, I had to take it again. And if by the time the opening race happened and I didn't pass this with a 97, I wasn't on the list to work that day. Now, that never happened to me. That never happened to me. But that's what it should be. You should have to take a test to be a weekly racing official. You need to know the rules. Just like there was a situation, and man, people are going to think this is just a bash. It's not a bash. It's facts. I'm talking facts. And what you want to do is you need to learn from your mistakes. Now, on the radio, here's a discussion. Figure 8 cars line up. Figure 8 stock cars line up. Tom Rogers Jr. is in a different car than he normally drives. They hold up the hot laps because they're going to have a committee meeting to discuss, wait a minute, shouldn't he be last? That's a car change. No, he practiced the 66 in practice. The 43 car, which he normally drives, which was destroyed the week before, never was at the racetrack. The car is not handicapped for positioning, starting position. The driver is. Here's a seasoned veteran, former champion driver is on the committee, and I'll call it a committee of officials. Another one has been the co-chief steward now probably for 5 years and worked under my predecessor for 3 or 4 years and worked under me for 3 years. You don't know the rules? Come on, guys. It's embarrassing. I was embarrassed to sit there and I could not believe this discussion was even being held. And then they finally, a rookie handicapper says to them, the car's in the right spot, the driver's handicapped. Oh, okay, we could go now. Are you kidding? You're kidding. This is why seasoned veteran fans and seasoned veteran drivers and car owners don't go to their local racetrack anymore, because the officials do not know the rules. They should read the book. It comes with your license. It comes in a little box. I guess they're so excited to get their little plastic card that says NASCAR Weekly All-American Series official, and they take the book and they throw it on the counter. I don't know. They don't read it. You know, it is. And you look at some of them, even if they have the rule book in their pocket, it's not opened. You can tell some, because when they do open to a page, it doesn't open. You got to peel it back and bend it and fold it. And there's nothing highlighted, there's nothing circled, there's no stars, so you remember things. Now, I'm not saying that I've memorized the rule book. Pretty darn close to it. I wrote a lot of it, trust me. I got the notes to prove it. Spent a lot of time in Concord, a lot of time in Daytona Beach, going over rules. Spent the weekend in New Hampshire, going over rules many times. So I know what the rules state, and I may not be mechanically inclined where if my car doesn't start, I could fix it, or if I blow my motor, I could rebuild it, but I know the rules. So I read something, I have a good memory, a very good memory. So I just have to see it. But anyway, this is one of the problems. This is one of the problems that we have, is that, and not just at our local Long Island racetrack, across the country, sometimes you put people in a job as an official at a racetrack because they're somebody's friend, they're somebody's brother-in-law, somebody's cousin, a former car owner, a former driver. Maybe it's a guy who doesn't go to the race anymore because he can't afford it, so they make him an official or her an official so they can get into the races for free. I don't know, but you should have to take a test. Do you know the rules? Simple rules. It's real simple. And then the other thing is, Homer hit on it, you need to be consistent. Whatever you're going to call or make or decide, you need to be consistent. You can't say, all right, you know what, we're going to let car number 13, get away with that, but we're going to make car number 14, no, he has to do it. And, this guy could work on his car and impound, because, it's only, this, but this other guy can't work on his car and impound, for whatever reason, or this guy could go to a backup car, and just, whatever, get a reinspection, but this guy can't go to a backup car, he has to swap motors, and I'm not saying this happened locally, it's happened in the touring series as well. It all depends on sometimes interpretation, but, the black flag, The black flag is a console flag. At some racetracks, they have a pit road. You can go down pit road, do your thing. If the officials were in error, you get your spot back. And I worked a race with a pit road, and I was on pit road, and I made an error. I brought a car back in because I only heard 4 lug nuts go on. The rules said the lug nuts have to be on. I brought the car down pit road, I brought him back, much to the chagrin of the crew chief and the car owner who was standing there, but I brought him back, and yeah, I only heard 4 go on, because you distinct, it's woot, 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 woot. You hear that noise. I heard it 5 times, but I didn't hear the 5th one lock up. It was real quick. They come down pit road. It was on, but the way it was on, because they have springs on the lug nuts, so you're not dealing with lug nuts, it just missed the stud, and it was on the side, and when they hit that last thing, and they realized it wasn't, but the rule clearly stated it has to be on. It doesn't say it had to be functional. My mistake. I called up to the tower on the private channel and said, he's got 5 lugs on, my error, and they gave that team his spot back. I don't know. But like Homer says, when you make a decision, if it's wrong for the last place guy, or any car that I own, then it should be, the rule for the champion. And I went through that for a couple of seasons where, my card being turn one and a guy spun on the backstretch and my guy would get penalized for it. Or, the guy in front of me is juicing his tires, so a big chunk of his tire juice goes into my radiator, and then it starts smoking from the heat and whatnot, and I get penalized because of excessive smoke. But it's a whole other thing. It's just consistency. You got to be consistent when you're an official. You got to be this good. And what also, as a competitor, what I would love to see is I need to know who the go-to guy is. Just like when I worked pit road and I walked up to my team or whatever pit box or stall I was in, and I'd go up to the group of guys. Who am I talking to? And the guy would, all right, I'm so-and-so, I'm the crew chief. All right, and I'd note it on my card. So-and-so's the crew chief. And that's who I'll talk to. I'm not going to talk to the jack guy. I'm not going to talk to the tire carrier. I'm not going to talk to the gas man. I'm not going to talk to the guy who waves the sign, this is our pit stall. I'm talking to the crew chief. And if 17 of their guys want to, yell and scream over something, I just walked away. I would walk away. And, I went through that with the 16 team a couple of years ago. There was a friend of a friend of a friend who was going to watch the race from pit road. And he starts screaming at me about that, screaming. So I go over to him, I said, look, dude, relax. You need to step back from the wall. You're not in fire suit gear. You need to step back from the wall. And then he starts putting his finger on his chest. Well, I don't like to be touched like that. I don't like forearms in my throat. I don't like people grabbing my collar. I don't like fingers in my chest. So I told the crew chief, I said, one more word from this person who don't belong here, I'm going to call up to the tower. We're going to bring your car down pit road, and we're going to hold you for 5 laps. And that's if I make sure I count them all until I decide to let you back out. So he made that guy leave, and then I actually got an apology phone call from this crew chief on Monday. So it is what it is. But I don't know. Evergreen. I see you guys are talking about Evergreen. Formerly Mountain Speedway, Evergreen, suspended operations. There's a lot trying to happen there to make it open up again, but you know what I think? I think it's time, at least this time, Evergreen will be, unfortunately, done as a racetrack. It takes a lot to operate a racetrack, and you have to have a lot of support, and you have to have a lot of help, and you have to have a lot of money. And if running a racetrack is your only means of income, you might be in trouble. Because you need money. You need money to keep it afloat. You need money to advertise. You need money to upgrade. You need money to fix things. You need money to entice competitors to come. And I don't think the current management had that. I just don't think they had that. There were a lot of good intentions, but and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and WJ from MyRaceNews.com can confirm this, I believe they were leasing the track. I don't think they owned it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but as he's saying here in the chat room, they ran out of money and couldn't pay the purse at the last event. Now, and that is caused by poor car count. Your back gate, your pits, the people who pay to come into your pit, they need to be, that number needs to cover the cost for the night, so that everything else that you get in concessions and ticket sales is gravy. If you don't make enough money at your back gate to cover your bills, you're going to be out of business. And I know another track in Connecticut, I believe it was Waterford Speedbowl, they had some financial problems 5-6 years ago, where a friend of mine, his son ran a legend car there, and when he went to the payoff window, he won the race, he won the feature. He goes up to the window and they said, oh, hey, how you doing? So listen, how many guys are on your crew? He goes, oh, I got this, me, and there's like 6 or 7 of us. All right, next week, you're going to get in for free because your payoff would have been XYZ, and that'll cover your entry fee for you and your crew guys next week. Now, here's what happens when you do that. It's like revolving credit. You keep paying the minimums. the principal never goes down. Keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So now what happens is this. Now, you didn't have the money to give this guy $100 this week, so you're going to sign him in for free. It's all right, whether I get it now, well, 'cause that's what happens. You take your winnings, you use your winnings to go race it next week. So what happens next week now? You've done that with the 5 winners that night. Now that's 25 people that aren't paying, whatever, $30 a head to get in the pits. So think about it. Now, different bunch of guys. You can't keep doing that. You can't keep saying that. Now, according to myracers.com, Evergreen is looking for investors, or they'll try to sell it. And he's saying sell, they want to sell the equipment because I believe the track is leased. The property belongs to somebody else. I don't think the track operator owns the property. I could be wrong. And yes, Waterford Speedway is still in foreclosure. And foreclosure today takes a long time. And years ago, not that many years ago, I think there was a different president in office. Foreclosure, when you got foreclosed on, it was quick. It was real quick. Now it takes forever. It takes a good long time. And it is a shame because it's a nice little racetrack. I went there once. One of the best times I had at a racetrack because that was the first event or the first racetrack I went to, other than a cup track, of course, which I ended up working anyway, that I was there to watch the races, period, the end. And I had a real good time, met some real good people, and it was all good. Okay. So the owner lives in Florida, so he's not really running the racetrack, so somebody's kind of operating it for him. And you know what? That's a tough deal to do, It falls into the category in my book is that, you can't, not only can you not officiate by committee, but, as a track, if I was a track operator, I would need the owner, let's say, that owned the place, that I only had to deal with them on Mondays when I brought them the envelope of cash. I don't want them to second guess me, and if I say, I need you to spend $5,000 for this to make the racing better, that's what they need to do. I'm a businessman. I know what it makes. So, and the vintage cars, they ran at Mountain. Vintage cars ran all over the place. Speaking of vintage cars, August 16th, Riverhead Raceway, we have the vintage guys there. And the following Sunday, August 24th, will be the Old Timers Reunion at the Himes Museum of Nostalgia. And with that, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the world of NASCAR when we come back.
For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit hansoncarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered.
Hey, this is Gina Cotillo from The Gina Show. Come join us every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for celebrity interviews, Reality Reel with Billy Charles, funny stories with Brian Kinnear, and much, much more. The Gina Show can be found only on InRadio.com, broadcasting to the world, so come and catch us.
You
Paul Brown and the Killing Devils. Alternative progressive rock like you've never heard before. Over 1 million views on YouTube. New York City Village Voice says Paul is a gifted singer, songwriter, and musician with one of the best progressive rock bands on the planet. LA Underground Music Exchange calls him the only modern American band to cover every genre well. Pick up the albums Black Widow Tears, Red Spider, and The Wizard's Dawn, now on iTunes. And get to facebook.com/Killing Devils to keep up with the latest info.
Hey, we're back. So we got some good stuff going on. So anyway, Marty, they're talking about Marty Hines' event in the chat room, I'm sure. It's funny, for years, I had always wanted to go there. And I heard good and bad about it. And you know what, all bad, the bad got the publicity. And I didn't go. I never went. And then I was like, out of Riverhead, and I was doing some tour stuff, and having this reunion thing. And somebody said, "Why don't you go? You see a lot of old people, old drivers and stuff, maybe some old buddies." And I went. And then I went again and again and again. And every time I go there, I see things that I didn't see the last time. And I was joking around with someone. I said, maybe I should put a tag on stuff that I've seen, so that I'll know when I've seen everything. And then just when you think you've seen most of the stuff, more stuff gets brought in. And it's kind of funny. I have a lot of stuff there now in the Hines Museum of Nostalgia. And I joke with Marty. I said, no, I should have my own little section. I got so much stuff there. I got the Pit Road fire suits, my Featherlight Modified Tour officials uniform that I wore at the last Featherlight Modified Tour event at Thompson International Speedway in Connecticut. The final time trial board redone in permanent marker from that last Featherlight Modified race. Oh man, all kinds of good stuff. My daughter's Champ Cart suit, because Lord knows that she'd never be able to wear that again. I put that there and she won that championship, and I think it was 01 or 02 or 03, I don't even remember. I have a lot of things there, a lot of stuff that I brought to Marty. Because anytime I go there, I always have something. It's like when people used to come to my house and they'd say, yeah, when I get there, what should I bring? I said, I don't know, whatever. Just when you get there, just kick the door and we'll let you in. And they're like, well, why do I have to kick the door? I said, because your arms should be full of what you're bringing. I don't know. I can't tell you what to bring, You know, there's a lot of stuff at Marty's, and you know, and I have a concern. It's just like when a track folds up, it's gone. It's gone. Nobody's going to resurrect the track. Nobody's going to rebuild the track on that property. Nobody's going to rebuild the track down the block, up the road, around the corner. When it's gone, it's gone. And I have, you know, concern with, you know, what do we do when Marty's gone? I hope the guy lives another 60, 70 years, but he's not gone. So what do we do? What do we do with all that stuff? Who's going to take his grandsons, his son? I don't know. I do know that I would love to see this museum in a nice warehouse somewhere in a building. And I've been to things. I was up at Stony Brook last year. I believe it was last summer. Stony Brook, and they had a museum there, and they had a whole thing on Long Island race and history, and a lot of Marty's stuff was there. And it was, what a difference. So everything was all spiffed and shined up and nice and pretty and displayed and all good, and it wasn't all cramped in with a bunch of other things. And you know, he's run out of room, folks. And I don't know, you know, how big of a place would he need? I'm thinking his house is probably 3,000 square feet, and the yard is probably another, I don't know, 20,000 square feet. You know, maybe it's not even 20,000 square feet, but you know, there's just, I mean, one garage. There's a garage that's just photo albums in a whole garage. You know, it's just. I'm just concerned when Marty's gone, what's going to happen to all that stuff? You know, I mean, there's things that people took to their graves, and one is Bob Copeland, longtime track handicapper and historian. He could tell you how many wins every driver had at every racetrack on Long Island. And he put it together one time, and then nobody kept it up. Nobody kept it up. And when he was gone, it's like somebody asked the PR guy from the racetrack, you know, who has those records? And the answer was, unfortunately, the man who had those records no longer with us. That was the late Bob Copeland. And he had a lot of stuff. He had a lot of records, and he didn't throw nothing away. He had everything in notebooks, and he could put it together for you, and it was all good. It was all good. You know, like Captain Video, videotapes all the races. I asked him once, how far back does his archive go? You know, because he had everything back in the day on VHS tape. Now it's on disc, and I'm not sure if he converted it all over, but I think he did. And you know, you tell him, give him a date and a race, and he'll give it to you. He'll get you that footage. You know, it's you got to be organized to be able to do that. And there's some races that I would like to go watch again. You know, not so much my records. I have like 3 versions of that. But and then you know, it was on. I did Real TV with that, and I did Fox Sports. You got to see this. So it was all cool. But you know, what do you do? You know, Phil Kerr's from Wheeling Engineering, and he's president of motorsports for Wheeling Engineering, and he keeps asking me. Every time he sees me, he wants me to sit down with key people in NASCAR, write a book, write a true nonfiction historical account based on the experiences of those people. And I tell him it's not my style, it's not what I do. He still, you know, he still wants me to do it. And yeah, some of it is my races, some of it is edited. I asked for a race one time, and he was missing like 4 laps, because, I don't know, he was missing 4 laps over like a restart. He came in, anyway. But you know, Phil wants me to sit down with Ed Cox, who's been in this business for over 40 years. He was in the tower as the race director when Richard Petty had that big barrel roll crash at Daytona, and Ed goes, "I can't believe it! I'm going to be fired. I killed Richard Petty." Because he thought Richard Petty was dead. Everybody did. It was very solemn, very quiet. Remember, even the announcers on ABC at the time, I believe it was ABC, were very solemn. You know, I don't know. Oh, you guys, pick on Kevin. The stories he had, in fact, Ed Cox, a lot of people don't know that, he was the technical director for the Days of Thunder movie with Tom Cruise way back when. And where it said technical advisor, the credit said NASCAR. Didn't say Ed Cox. And all the stories that were in there, were like really happened. Really happened. I believe that the scene where Cole Trickle and his arch nemesis, when the guy that he went to the house with and was trying to drive for him and whatnot, that scene where they went to the restaurant and the head guy of the head CBS, thank you, of the Richard Petty Barrow, the head guy, punished these guys and made them get along, and they did go race to the restaurant and wreck rental cars, and they were wrecking each other on a racetrack, and they became, I don't want to say top guys, but they became good buds, and things that Ed Cox had to say about the racing. He wanted me to talk to Jeff Bodine. He wanted me to talk to Ed Flumke Jr. He wanted me to talk to Jamie Tomeno, the Fullers, some of the old Mike Stefanik, some of the old NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour guys who were around forever, Jerry Cook, just to get their stories. And I said to them, it's not my style. It's not what I write about. I write up fictional stuff that I make up. And if you see any truisms, anything I write, maybe you have a guilty conscience. I don't know, because I write fiction. It's, I don't know, maybe I'll attempt it. I don't know, we'll see. We'll check it out. But it's something that it's not my style, but he keeps pushing me, he keeps, in a nice way, go do that when you write that, but I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, what's going on in NASCAR? Well, let's see what we got going on. Some of the things. Kevin Harvick has added Mobil 1 as the primary sponsor for the GoBowling.com 400 this upcoming August 3rd at Pocono. So that's a good deal for him. Mobil 1 will be the primary sponsor for that event. And it's funny when you see a company come on and because they're an associate sponsor already, but you see them come on as a primary sponsor like that for a race, it's only a matter of time before they become the primary sponsor for the whole season. And then Joe Gibbs Racing and Stuart Haas Racing, their planes collided at the Concord Airport. A Joe Gibbs plane bumped a Stuart Haas plane while parked. And as they were returning from Indy, Joe Gibbs Racing's plane, the wing clipped the tail of the Stuart Haas Racing jet. Thank goodness nobody was hurt. I don't do this for the money, but that's a Phil Kerr too. It would be a big bestseller. Anyway, let's see. Rick Hendrick extends his deal with key partner. It was announced last week that Hendrick Motors extended a deal with their key partner, Bank of America, through 2015. This includes a newly designed website headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina, Bank of America, that is, and Hendrick right around the corner. They've been working together since 2008, so that's a good deal. It's nice to see Bank of America out all its financial issues taken care of, that they could sponsor a race car. That's only good. Let's see, Richard Petty Motorsports went straight to Watkins Glen for a test, a 2-day test at the road course after leaving Indy this past weekend. The reason, they're hoping to get both drivers in the chase. Almirola has a leg up on the chase spot with his win at Daytona earlier in July, and Marcus Ambrose, who has 2 victories at the Glen, 2011 and 2012, along with 5 top 3 finishes and 6 starts. Under the new chase format, if Ambrose can score a victory, he will be in the 16-driver playoff. Ambrose has never made the chase. So they're making a concerted effort to make that happen. Also going to Watkins Glen for a test is A.J. Almonding, Martin Truex Jr., Austin Dillon, and Ty Dillon, and they're scheduled to take part in this 2-day test. So it should be interesting. Go test at Watkins Glen. Yeah, well, it's fine. That's the banking capital of America, Charlotte, believe it or not. Denny Hamlin's 11 was confiscated after his third-place finish at Indy this past weekend. There were possible issues with several rear firewall block-off plates on the Joe Gibbs entry. Possible problem. Now, I can get into the rule on what happens there, and certain things are supposed to happen, and certain things aren't supposed to happen. Apparently, what was supposed to didn't, and what was not supposed to did. So we'll see what happens there. And then the first place car of Jeff Gordon, who won at Indy this past weekend, his 5th win at Indy. Jeff Gordon's first place car and the second place car driven by Kyle Busch were also taken to Concord for reevaluation. And as per Kerry Tharp, a spokesman for NASCAR, they see no post-race issues with the Gordon car and the Busch car. However, they will go over them with a fine-tooth comb. And again, like I said earlier, the Whelen Modified Tour will be at Stafford this Friday. The Whelen Southern Modified Tour, August 8th for the Modified Tour. And the Southern Tour will be at Bowman Gray this weekend. And the KM Pro Series East will be in Iowa Friday, August the 1st. So that's a hike, man. I worked at Iowa. I worked a couple of years. And it took me 15 hours to fly there because I had to go Islip, what did I do? I went Islip, Philly, Chicago, Des Moines, and then from the hotel to the racetrack was another like hour. It took forever to get there. It was a whole day to fly and a whole day to fly back. I do remember that. And, like I said, at the Indy, Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon was the winner. Jeff Gordon, that was his 5th Brickyard win, 8 days before his 43rd birthday. And on the weekend, Indianapolis Motor Speedway celebrate the 20th anniversary of the first Brickyard. So that's good. So as Jeff Gordon said, if you could do it here, you could do it anywhere. As he sits atop the Sprint Cup Series, points 13 of the last 14 weeks. Jeff Gordon, I'll tell you what, I'm thinking that if Jeff Gordon wins this championship, I have a feeling it's going to be his last season. Jeff Gordon has some physical issues, some back issues, similar to what Mark Martin has or had. And I don't think Jeff is going to cripple himself the way Mark Martin was. If you watch Mark Martin walking in the garage area, he's a short guy. He might be like 5'2", 5'3". It's like his left shoulder is at the height of a 5'4" guy, and his right shoulder is at the height of a 4'11" guy. But they fix his back. But I don't know. It's just, this is what racing does to you over the years, And both guys are in good physical condition. They work out. Most competitors at the higher levels are in good physical condition. You have to be. Think about it. You have to be. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I started kind of watching my eat. I went to a dietary regimen a couple of years ago, knowing that I was going to go back racing. I just didn't know where. And I knew what it was like with the last time I raced a full season. There were nights that and when the race was over, I had to douse myself with water, drink water, and it took me a good 10, 15 minutes to get out of the race car. And I was just not in good physical condition, and I was probably a good 260, 270 pounds. My fire suit was so tight that it impeded my breathing sometimes. I hated the mask or the full helmet because I felt like I was underwater, and it was just a whole big thing. And then when I did 8 or 10 laps a couple of weeks ago at Riverhead, I didn't even break a sweat. I could have did another 20, 30 laps. And when I ran a 50-lap truck race a couple of years ago, I had a ball. I wasn't even tired, So it's I don't know. it was good. But anyway, Jeff Gordon won at Indy. Kyle Busch was second. Denny Hamlin was third. I'd say Matt Kenseth was fourth. Joey Logano was fifth. Casey Kane sixth. Kyle Larsen seventh. Kevin Harvick eighth. Dale Earnhardt Jr. ninth. And rounding out the top 10 was Austin Dillon. In the Nationwide Series, Ty Dillon was the winner with Kyle Busch second. Matt Kenseth third. Kevin Harvick fourth. Joey Logano was fifth. Paul Menard was sixth. Brian Scott was seventh. Kyle Larson eighth. Trevor Bayne ninth. And Regan Smith rounded out the top 10 there. Eldora. The trucks are on dirty Eldora. I watched that race. I had a good time. I enjoyed that race. It's not every day I get to sit and watch a race on TV, but Eldora, I loved it because it was just, it reminded me of good Saturday night racing, and it was real good. Darrell Wallace Jr. was the winner with Ron Hornaday second. Ryan Blaney was third. Ken Schrader fourth. Ty Dillon was fifth. Then in sixth place, we had John Hunter Nemechek, Jeb Burton seventh, Johnny Sauter eighth, Matt Crafton ninth, and Austin Dillon rounding out the top 10. And as I said earlier, the Baldwin Evans Jazamek Memorial was won by Tom Rogers Jr., Ron Silk second, Ryan Preece third, just missing out on a $2,000 bonus, starting last, Jeffrey Goodell fourth, and Eddie Brunhustle the third was fifth. Interesting story with Tom Rogers Jr. Tom Rogers was driving for the Ambrose family, the 0, the 3, the 0, the 3, depending. And they brought both cars to the racetrack, whichever one seemed to be the best that night Tom would drive. And then due to, from what I understand, incidents, that's the word I'm looking for, that happened that was upsetting to the Ambrose family that they vowed to not come back. And they haven't been. However, I believe Tommy Rogers, when he went to Seekonk for the $10,000 to win open race, it was an Ambrose car. But Tom Rogers Jr. is running the family car now. When I say it's the family car, I believe it's owned by his brother-in-law and sister. I could be wrong, but it's a family-owned car, and I'm sure he has a piece of it as well. And he's got 2 wins in 2 weeks, so thank you. You know, whenever I'm like at a loss for words, it's good that you're in the chat room because you can help me come with those words and those names I can't remember. I just couldn't get it out. But anyway, Tom Rogers. Tom Rogers, I'll tell you what. A lot of people don't realize his background in racing goes back to before he was even allowed in the pits, and he even helped Tom Baldwin Sr. When he was a kid, and he learned a lot from Tom Baldwin Sr., and he had said that in Victory Lane. And here's a kid, he just showed up, He reminded me, and I don't mean this in any bad way, he reminded me of that guy Pigpen from the Peanuts Gallery, He'd show up you could tell he was working on a race car all night, and he'd show up and he'd make it happen. And, I can remember once he took out my daughter's car in the blunderbuss because he was the only guy to fit in the seat, and man, did he motor this thing. She took the green and we needed a caution. We got one early. She wasn't feeling well and he got in, but that caution was caused by her or the person that hit her and knocked the left front wheel kind of out of whack, bent an upper A-frame, bent the lower, and now I knew that when she came in. I could see it, and Tommy got in it, and we were 3 laps down. By the time we got in, they shut the gate on me, and I was like, ugh. But then somebody who knew we were trying to make it back out all of a sudden they put their car in neutral and they let it roll up to the wall like it shut off. So we were 3 laps down, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, he made a lap up. From the back of the pack, he made a lap up and came back around, and there was no free pass. It was just one of those things, and he came in and he made some suggestions, and I said, Tom, the left front wheel took a pop, it's out of whack, and he just started laughing. He goes, man, I could have made those laps up and won the race if the car was in better condition, and I kind of laughed, but he was always a big help and always a good guy, so, and then aside from, I guess, there was a couple of people that came from back in the blunderbuss division. Jack Haley Jr., I believe, he started way deep in the field to come up and get a win. I believe he started like 16th or something. And what I'll tell you what, it's and I've said this, and everybody thinks I'm nuts, and this is at every racetrack. It goes and it's cyclical. This is the good guy, no wrong could happen. This is the good guy, that guy's out of the picture. And there was a guy that could do no wrong that was apparently missing this past Saturday. I had nothing to do with it. Yeah, Jack Handley Jr., this kid, he could drive a race car. And I would love to see what would you take that guy out of these 4,200-pound race cars and put him in and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get crucified, a real race car. A 4,200-pound, 120 wheelbase car on a quarter-mile racetrack is not a race car. You may race, start at 16th, that's what, 15th. You may be racing it, but it's technically in that division not a race car. So I would love to see him in a late model, or even a modified down the road. But anyway. And a shout out to Kenny Hyde Jr., who started deep in the field as well, battling for the win with 1 to go. And then he just kind of overcorrected, and he got a little squirrely and ended up finishing 3rd. So there's a guy, I'll tell you what, 2 years ago, if you would have said to me, Kenny Hyde Jr. is going to be the figure 8 champion next year, and he's going to win some races, I would have been, I was like, well, I don't know about that. I don't know. And man, he turned it around last year, and it was a battle up to the last week. He was a guest on our show. He was a good guest. And this year, he's there every week. When I say there, not at the racetrack, but he's there every week contending for the win. And there may be only 12 or 14 figure 8 cars or 11 figure 8 cars, depending on the week. But you know what? The ones that are there, there's no slouches. There's no person just riding around. There's no slouches in that division. And even some of the rookies we got. I mean, C.J. Lehman, how many races does he have under his belt in a figure 8? I think 4. I don't know. I could be wrong. Yeah, 22 figure 8. That was your old car. He ran. Behind him, he had multiple champions, track champions, and probably like 130 wins behind him. And he held them off and won the race. So, congratulations to C.J. Lehman on his first win in a figure 8 stock car. And, I'm a figure 8 guy. I love the figure 8s. I'll tell you what, I think for fun next year, I think I want to put together a figure 8 car and run it when the tour is not running somewhere. Because I miss it. I sit up in the stands, I'm like, man, I wish there was 11, 12 cars when I was racing figure 8s. Because I don't know, man. I remember struggling to make it through qualifying sometimes and running a consi, and from like in 89 and 90, I don't think there was a week that I didn't qualify. I think it's 90 was the last year I ran figure 8s on a regular basis, then came back in 95 and 96. And back then there was no heat race and everybody was in 95 and 96. You just showed up and went racing. But in 89 and 90, I can remember, 4 heats with 8 to 10 cars in it. And then you go and run a consi, and they're taking like 5 cars out of a heat, and then 4 out of consi, go 4 cars out of heat and 4 out of consi, depending. I'm trying to remember. Yeah. Come on, Bill, it'll be fun. We bring back some old times, man. We'll paint our cars primer color so we don't have to worry about trading paint. But I'm really thinking about it. There's a couple opportunities out there, believe it or not. I talked to a couple of guys about going back. I was going to do it this year. It was just too much going on. But I'm looking to go back figure 8 racing, and maybe I understand the mayor of figure 8 racing, or I guess the president of figure 8 racing, the unofficial president of figure 8 racing, listens to the show. So yeah, I'm coming back. I think I'm coming back. Just so you know. So you don't need to congratulate me. You don't need to call me and say so. But I want to go have some fun, and that's what it's all about, having some fun. I only want to play this game for a couple of more years, and then who knows? I mean, I don't want to be a car owner. I just want to go have fun, just like playing golf. Last week I played golf, shot at 98. I had a good time, had a lot of fun. We're going to play again this week. It's all about having fun. All about having fun. Yeah, anyway, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about some things and start wrapping up when we come back.
Hey, this is Chris and Larsen Jake, and if InRavio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
InRavio.com. For over 60 years, Hansen Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hansen Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansenCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hansen Carpet has got you covered. The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Hey, we're back. We are back. Anyway. Yeah, we're just talking about some of the things in the chat room. We're talking about, figure eight driving. Not what it once was, obviously. And I don't think any real division or any series is what it once was. I mean, take out the multiple teams in the Sprint Cup series, and you have like 33 cars, I think was the number I came up with. It's it's interesting, where is it happening? And me and we're in the chat room going back and forth trying to figure out how many races we have. If that's the case, they're saying that C.J. Lehman had run 9 races this year. What is he saying? The 9th race. If they only have 10 on the schedule, so you're telling me like from now to the middle of September there's one other race? I don't know. They just had 3 weeks off. They started in May, so it's 4. It's 8. It's 12. And they had 3. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I just know that they only have 10 or 11 races for the whole season. So you're going to tell me they're off the month of August? Because I know they have 2 races in September. So anyway, figure eight racing. A lot of people are afraid of the X. Well, I think there's everybody's going to crash. There hasn't been a real devastating, deliberating wreck at the X in a long time. And part of the reason is the small car count, I'll admit that. But I'll tell you what, dollar for dollar, it's the way to race at this little short track on Long Island. I know the figure eight champion, back when they ran full seasons, made as much money as the second or third place modified finisher in the points. And you look at it, I think it's like $450 to win or $440 to win. And, let's say you have 15 events, because that's what they had back in the day. And if you're in the top 3 every week, so it's $450, $375, $300. So, you're averaging $475. You've made over $1,000 in that division. And the cost to run that division is not, you don't have to put 4 stickers on every night. I tell people that, a lot of, like, in the circle track, oval track cars, your right rear and your right front, you're changing right side tires often. Figure eights, first of all, they're only running 15 laps, and half their turns in the other direction. So they're not going into each corner twice, they're going into each corner once. So, you get a lot of, heat cycles out of a figure eight set of tires on. And a lot of guys think you got to put, Ford's tires, make you run better. Sometimes, you get a sticker, you scuff it in, and you go. So, but anyway, they're saying is I guess there's 11 races in the figure eights, and I don't know. And somebody's saying that Tom Rogers shout out. I think we talked about him in the beginning of the show about Tom Rogers and how he went out in the car normally driven in the past driven by Johnny Electric Vulo. One of my favorite figure eight drivers of all time. Not. But now, which car is toast? The coupe or the one he ran Saturday, WJ? Which car is toast? And talking about the figure race, the non-point race. It used to be championship day, but they can't call it that anymore. So it's just a race. I don't even think it has extra money. It used to. It used to be a nice paying race. That September race used to pay a lot of money. It used to be good. I remember finishing 23rd and getting $240 or $235 one time. The 43. I looked at the 43 after that wreck, and it didn't look that bad. It looked like a lot of sheet metal damage and a lot of bent bars and stuff. But I don't know. I guess when you say it's done, I guess a front and a rear clip will be out of question. Usually when they say a race car is done, you bend the center section, then it's done. You bend the clip. You can always reclip it. You can always pull it over. I had bent the clip one time, front clip in 95. I bent it so bad it wouldn't go on the trailer, even with the tow trucks. Right front. The right front wheel was hanging off the right trailer ramp once it was on the trailer. I couldn't even get it on the trailer, up to the wheels. And the right rear tires were there as well. The left front tire was in the center of the trailer, and the left rear tire was on the ramps. It was bent pretty bad. And when I got it home, and I checked it out on Sunday morning, I should say, it wouldn't even roll. It was like, holy cow. And I chained it to a tree. I got the come along out, and I pulled it over. I took some measurements, and I had measurements where, how can I explain this? I had, exactly, WJ, I had measurements that I measured from the right rear shock to the left front lower ball joint, and the left rear to the right front. I measured heights. I measured all these numbers, so that I knew if I ever bent it bad, if I could just get it to that point or close, it'll be right again. So I pulled it, like I said, attached it to a tree, and I pulled it over to come along. And before I did that, there was this funny thing. I took the nerve bars off it, and I took the nerve and I couldn't. My nerve bars are slide-ins. Nerf bars, they slid in, and then I just put them with a carriage bolt because I wanted them to break if it ever got hit hard enough. I didn't want my frame to break. I wanted my nerf bar mounts to break, and it worked pretty good. So I get the bolt. I can't get the bolts out. They just bent so bad. I can't get the bolts out. And on the one side, it was bent like a V, and the other side was bent like a U. When I finally got the U side, the one side, when I finally cut it with the torch and let it go, it sprung like a catapult. It just sprung. And I'm like, oh, this ain't good. So anyway, I get it pulled over, and I went like an inch or two more than I needed because I knew it would settle back. And then I just plated it and torched it where the bends were. And I got it pretty straight. And I had fun doing that. Yeah, that's what I was doing. I didn't know what it was called, and because I failed geometry in high school. In fact, I hated geometry. They made me take it. I was one of these brainiacs, and I only had to take certain classes, and I was able to do these other classes. And I saw no need to take math. I took the minimum bare requirement. So I didn't have a full schedule I guess maybe 11th grade or 10th grade. 10th grade, because my schedule was filled up with social studies and social sciences and stuff. And, plus the required stuff. And I saw no need to take geometry, none. And they wouldn't let me drop it. They wouldn't let me drop it. And I walked up to the teacher and I said, and his name was Mr. Keck, Babylon High School. I said, Mr. Keck, what would you do to me if I took this math book and I ripped it in half? And then ripped it in half again. He goes, well, first of all, I don't think you could do it. And second of all, you'd be out of the class. So not only did I rip it in half, I ripped it in half again. Because if you get it on the right angle, it rips real easy. And the cover is only cardboard with a nice, pretty design over it. So I ripped it and I ripped it again, and I slammed it on his desk, and I got kicked out of geometry. And he was the only geometry teacher, because I went to Babylon. It was a very small school district, and the classes only had about 12 kids in them, and there was only one geometry teacher, and he was it. So I got my wish. I was out of geometry. So I guess I did learn something for the short period of time I was there to know to make those measurements. So anyway, I had all kinds. I had like this chart, this book, it looked like a blueprint of what my car should be, because I thought I was a real hotshot, because I was everything. I was car owner, crew chief, mechanic. I wasn't a mechanic. I had another guy for that, but I had the only 7-cylinder race car in the figure 8 division back in 1995. 7 cylinders. That's all. We don't have time to talk about that story. I had a 7-cylinder. Imagine that. And it was still pretty fast with a 7-cylinder. Whole another story. Ask me about it offline. I'll be more than happy to share that with you. But anyway, so we got it back together. So I think everything is fixable. Like somebody said earlier, with a good chassis machine, you can fix anything. As long as the integrity of the frame is good, you could fix it. And some guys need perfect. Some guys need, there's a bend here, that's it, cut it off, put a new one on. And I wish I had that kind of money. I mean, I used to, but I don't do that anymore. There's more to life than just going racing. There's other things that I use my money for now. I like to go out and have a good time. I like to play golf. I like to go to the beach. I like to go to concerts. I like to go to family things. Lately, the family things I've been going to are like funerals and wakes, but I like to go to family things, go out on the boat, things like that. And the people that I hang with, they're not into racing, so they do these things on Saturday. In fact, that's this weekend coming up. I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm taking a trip to do a family thing, so I'll be missing the racing. But let's see, 22 years, was that the one you ran, Caesar, with the crack? Yeah, no, the block wasn't cracked. See, now you're going to make me talk about it. I don't have enough time. I got to pay these guys overtime. This is what happened. This is what happened with that motor. I get this motor, and I get a real good deal on it. Real good deal. And the deal was brokered by somebody who I should have learned. I should have not listened to him, because it was just one of those, so, I'm not even going to say who built the engine. It's not a known engine builder, so let's put that. It was, a guy that built some motors, whatever. And he talks me into going to this knucklehead, this troll, and buying this motor, because it was a motor for somebody else. They didn't finish paying for it, and I could get it for the balance due. Well, it kind of sounds like a no-brainer, but they wouldn't tell me who was buying it and who didn't, because they didn't want that person to know, as I was told, that I ended up with it. So anyway, I go and get this motor, and I do all the stuff in. Now I get it in the car and put my headers on, all kinds of good stuff. And the engine builder gave me specific instructions on how to break it in. All right, so we get the motor in. It won't start. It won't start. All I had to do to this motor when I got it from him is put my headers on it and my carburetor. That was it. It won't start. Now, my guy that's helping me, he was a mechanic. Guy's pretty darn good. Can't get it to start. So I call the engine builder. He goes, oh, what battery you got? Now he tells you I need this other high-powered, highfalutin battery, that you can't get it, AutoZone. You got to order it from Dennis, from Overspeed, whatever. So I get this battery, spend a fortune on this battery. It won't start. So another guy comes who kind of was involved with racing, winning race cars and stuff. He comes by the house, and he's going to play with it for a little while, and it won't start. So I'm trying to get the engine builder to come and try to get it started for me. He doesn't want to know nothing because he's got my money. He's done with me. And all of a sudden, it starts to turn over. But it's turning over slow and hard. Well, this is the best battery you can get. If it ain't turning over with this battery, I don't know what's going to happen. So, wait till you hear what happened. So it overheated all the time. So finally we get it going. Now, what they told me to do is in the break-in period, let it idle for like whatever. I forget how much time I had to idle it at. Take it down, change the oil, save the oil I took out, put new oil in it, change the oil filter, do it again, but now let it idle about 2,500. Difficulty started. We couldn't get past the first, the motor, I should say, was running maybe 5 minutes, and the water temperature went up to 250. I'm like, what the heck? Now I call him, he tells me, oh, what radiator do you have? No, you need this radiator. So another 300-400 to get that radiator, put it in. Next night, we're trying to make it happen. Now it took 10 minutes to run up to that temperature, to go up to 250. But it's running nice. Maybe it's just running hot. Maybe I got to adjust some jets and this and that, thing. But anyway, we go racing. And it's overheating, week after week after week, overheating. And then my brother's brother-in-law, Eddie, who passed away, he had cancer a few years back, he came over and he's looking at it, and he adjusted the time. You know what, you're running this hot, your timing's out of whack, boom, 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 boom. We go out racing, and I'm like, wow. I'm running around, I'm racing a race, I'm going out there, and it's, I hear a little miss as I come midway down the straightaway. I'm like, all right, well, but I look at the temperature gauge, and the temperature gauge said like 160. I said, this is great. Oh, man, we fixed it. All right, now we have a caution. And I'm sitting, and I go up to the wall. I go to my guy that's helping me, and I yell, because you can go up there, up in turn 4 of the oval track, and I go up there and I tell him, and I yell, open up my helmet, I yell, it's like 160. He goes, all right, that's right, yeah. We're all happy, and we're sitting there waiting for the cleanup, and we're just riding around, and I have to stop. The track was impassable. We had to stop and just sit there until they did something. And I'm watching it go, and I'm watching it go to 160, 140, 120. Because I was sitting there revving the motor. Because Roger Mader said, if you rev it when you're under caution, you get the fan going. And then 140, 120, 80, 0, 280, 260. The needle went all the way around. Pull into the pits. I look, and my rectangle aluminum radiator is now almost circular. All the fins and stuff, they're all expanded. It's really bad. And the motor's making this funky noise. So we get it to my shop, and I was in the shop with the 52 Charger, and then they were a sponsor. Village Music Shop was a sponsor at the time, and Dwayne Wallace, Bobby Wallace's father, who was a renowned engine builder, Wallace Engineering, out of Baltimore, Maryland. He's going to come, and we're going to look at this motor. We pull the heads off, and he starts pressurizing. I think that's what he was doing, my cylinders, and all of a sudden, we get to the other side. He pulls the head off, and he goes, "Joe, number one cylinder's full of water." I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "It's full of water." So we get the water out, and we pressurize it. There was a hairline crack in a water jacket. That cylinder never ran all year. Or had a 7-cylinder. So I got beat by the little troll and his broker, because they knew what was wrong with that motor. What did they care? You know, they got some idiot to buy it. So let the buyer beware. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up. Oh, man. Sometimes the time flies. It just goes flies. Yeah, hot stuff, WJ. And then I raced my own motor again. It's kind of funny. But anyway, there this weekend, what do we got going? Bowman Gray, if you want to head down south, you're going to see some pretty good action down in Bowman Gray this weekend. The real good, and I'm going to have some fun. So it'll be a week off for racing for me. I do not plan on going to the racetrack this Saturday. As I said, I'm going to do some family stuff. And I want to say happy birthday to my daughter Jessica, who turns 24 today. My baby, my racing partner for a long time. She was driving street cars when she was 5, meeting me on the corner and sitting on my lap, steering the car home. A happy birthday to Jessica. I love her. She's the best. Anyway, time to go, folks. I want to thank everybody for being a part of the 505 on Racing Show today. This is your show as well as it's mine. I want to thank everybody for their time, for their input, and for their making me laugh, make me forget about some of the outside noise that's going on, and all of that kind of good stuff. So wherever your endeavors take you this upcoming week till Monday, please be safe. Tell somebody you love them, and God bless you all. Good night, folks.